Death in July's last week is not something that should be taken lightly. It's not about fear. It's not about superstition. It's about paying attention, because when something dies, something else is being born. But if you are not present, if you are not aware, you miss both. You miss the death and you miss the birth. And that is what most people do every single day, sleepwalking through time, blinded by routine, distracted by noise, while life is whispering, right here, right now. Wake up, because the last week of July holds a different kind of energy. It forces you to confront, forces you to look, forces you to listen. Some people say, it's just another week. No, that's where the danger is. That kind of thinking is what traps people. They say tomorrow will be better. Next month will bring clarity. But what if the lesson was now? What if the test was this week? What if you were supposed to wake up in the last 7 days of July and you didn't? Everything begins with awareness. That's where transformation starts. Without awareness, there is no change. There is no breakthrough. There is no end to the pattern. Awareness means you stop and see. You notice the emotions rising. You observe the thoughts that keep repeating. You watch your reactions like an outsider. You catch the cycle before it runs again. But awareness isn't comfortable. It feels like pressure, like silence pressing against your chest, like restlessness that won't let you sleep. That's not punishment. That's the call. That is life demanding your attention, because something inside you is trying to die. A version of you that cannot go forward. A version of you that has outlived its purpose. And unless you let it go, you'll carry the weight into another month, another year. Another lifetime of excuses. This is why death in July's last week matters. It's not about someone else. It's about you, your own evolution, your discipline, your response to what is ending inside you. But most people won't notice. They will numb it, distract it, scroll through it, run from it. And they will feel the same pain again next year because nothing changed, because they did not become aware. So what must die in this final week? That's the question. What belief is rotting your potential? What habit is stealing your peace? What relationship is draining your soul? What identity are you clinging to because you're afraid of being empty? Let it go. Let it collapse. Let it dissolve. This is not destruction. This is purification. Only when the noise dies, the truth becomes visible. But truth is not soft. Truth is sharp. It cuts, it confronts, it reveals. And that's why most avoid it. Because to become aware means you can no longer pretend. You cannot blame. You cannot delay. You cannot hide behind the old mask. That's what death in the last week of July demands from you. Honesty. The radical honesty with yourself. That's the beginning of transformation. That's the beginning of real freedom. The problem is never the outside world. It's not the noise, not the people, not the chaos. The real problem is unconsciousness, lack of attention, lack of clarity. That's what keeps you repeating cycles you hate. That's what keeps you stuck in emotional loops. So the moment you become aware, even slightly, the entire direction of your life begins to shift. And that shift can happen this week if you let it. If you face it, if you choose to be present. Don't wait for signs. Don't wait for pain to intensify. Don't wait for the collapse to become unbearable. The signs are already here. The inner pressure is already building. The mirror is already in front of you. You just need to look. You need to listen. You need to stop and ask, what is this moment trying to teach me? What am I afraid to face? What pattern keeps showing up in different forms? Awareness is the beginning. Without it, no practice, no philosophy, no teaching can help you. But with it, even the smallest lesson becomes life-changing. So during this last week of July, do not run from discomfort. Do not seek distractions. Sit with it, face it, witness it. The discomfort is not your enemy. It is your guide. It is the voice of something deep inside saying, pay attention. Change is here. Something must end. But endings are not sad. Endings are sacred. They are necessary. They are powerful. And they only become painful when you resist. So don't resist. Don't cling. Don't pretend. This is your moment. This is your week. This is your turning point. If you can remain aware, truly aware, death in July's last week won't destroy you. It will wake you up. It will break open the part of you that has been waiting to be seen. It will destroy the lie and reveal the strength. But the key is this: you must show up. You must be willing to see, and you must be willing to feel, not run, not explain, not numb. Just sit and see. Because what's dying this week is not something outside you. It's the false self, the mask, the limitation. And what's being born is you. Death in July's last week is not always loud. Sometimes it enters quietly. Without warning, it doesn't knock. It doesn't ask. It just arrives, and suddenly everything feels different. And this is where most people make a mistake. They assume things are stable, so they believe the ground they're standing on won't shift. But life has no obligation to warn you before it changes direction. And this final week of July is proof of that, because in this short window of time, many people will feel it: the sudden collapse of what they thought was permanent, the end of what seemed unshakable. And it's in that moment where everything changes. The illusion of stability is the most dangerous trap. People organize their lives to feel secure. Same job, same thinking, same emotional reactions. They stay close to the familiar because they think it protects them. But what they don't realize is that this very comfort becomes a prison, slowly, silently, without chains. And then a moment comes, the kind of moment this last week of July carries, and the illusion is ripped away. That's what death really means here. The death of the lie that anything external can make you feel truly safe. You see, this week doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to expose you, to show you what you've been clinging to out of fear, to reveal the cracks in the foundation you thought was solid. It might look like a relationship falling apart. It might feel like a deep inner emptiness you've been ignoring. It might come as a financial shake-up or an unexpected ending. But no matter the form, it is the same lesson: what you thought was stable was not. And now you must face it. But most people will panic. They will fight to hold the illusion together. They will scramble to rebuild what was meant to fall. That is resistance. And resistance always multiplies suffering. The harder you grip something that's dissolving, the more it cuts you. The more you hold on to the old, the more painful the separation becomes. But when you understand that death in July's last week is not your enemy, you begin to let go. You begin to see the gift behind the fall. You don't grow when life is still. You don't change when everything is easy. It's in the shake up where strength is found. It's in the moment when everything collapses that your real self begins to rise. But only if you allow it. Only if you face what is crumbling without fear, without escape, without denial. The end is not the enemy. The end is the invitation. And this week offers that invitation to everyone who is willing to wake up. So the question is simple. What have you been pretending is stable? For what part of your life are you holding together with fear? Is it a story you keep telling yourself? Is it a false identity you've outgrown? Is it an environment that no longer aligns with who you are becoming? This week, life will test those areas, not to punish you, but to free you. And freedom never feels soft in the beginning. It feels like confusion. It feels like pressure. But underneath all of that is your transformation. When you stop seeking stability from the outside, something powerful happens. You begin to turn inward. You begin to realize that true grounding comes from presence, from discipline, from awareness, not from a title, not from a person, not from a routine. All of those things can vanish in a moment. All of them can die, just like the illusions that dissolve during the last week of July, but presence that stays. Awareness that endures. And this is the time to develop it. Don't expect comfort, expect confrontation. Expect the mirror to be held in front of you, and don't look away. Don't blink, look straight into it. Ask yourself, am I living in truth or illusion? Am I growing or hiding? Am I awake or just surviving? These questions are not small, they are everything. And this week demands answers. It is easy to believe you're grounded when nothing challenges you. But when the structure shakes, when the mask breaks, when the plan dissolves, that's when your true foundation is revealed. What do you rely on when there is nothing to rely on? What do you stand on when the floor falls out beneath you? That's what this week is asking. Not to destroy your life, but to destroy your dependence on what was never real to begin with. So let the illusions die. Let the fake stability collapse. Let the false confidence melt. This is not weakness. This is awakening. This is the kind of that leads to real life. And if you can walk through it with eyes open and heart steady, you won't come out the same. You'll come out cleaner, stronger, wiser, ready. Because death in July's last week is not about endings. It's about clarity. It's about facing the truth with courage. It's about losing what you never needed so you can finally hold what is real. And what is real can never be taken from you. Death in July's last week is not always something you see outside. It doesn't always come with a funeral or silence or tears. Most of the time it happens inside you. Quiet, invisible. But just as real, it is the death of who you used to be, a part of your mind, a way of thinking, a behavior you've been carrying for years. And sometimes this death feels even heavier than the ones we witness in the world because you cannot run from it. It lives in you and it keeps knocking until you pay attention. This final week of July is not just a period of time. It is a mirror, and what it shows you will not be filtered. You will see clearly what no longer belongs. You will feel the tension between your old self and your becoming self. You will be forced to let go, not because you want to, but because you can no longer hold on to what's breaking you. There is a reason this week feels different, a reason you feel more restless, more emotional, more reflective. It is because something inside you is ending, and your system knows it. Even if your mind doesn't, you are being prepared for a shift, but that shift cannot happen without death. The death of patterns, the death of lies, the death of a version of you that has done its part but cannot continue. Letting go of the old self is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, because the old self is not just a memory. It is comfort. It is identity. It is who you believed yourself to be for so long. And now you are being asked to release it. That means you are being asked to face the unknown. And that's where fear shows up. That's where doubt comes in. So that's where most people stop. But the truth is simple. If you don't let that part of you die, you will suffer. You will repeat. You will create new versions of the same pain, the same mistakes, the same regrets. Life will become a loop until you learn, until you surrender, until you finally say, I am done being who I used to be. This is what death in July's last week is calling for. A deep, honest decision to grow. Not later, not when you feel ready. No, because growth does not wait for permission. It arrives when it's time. And when it knocks, you either open the door or you close it. But there are consequences to both. So ask yourself, what part of me is dying right now? What is no longer true? What have I outgrown but still carry out of habit or fear? That's where your focus should be. Because this week is not about survival. It's about transformation. It's not about fixing the outside. It's about cleansing the inside. And for that to happen, you must stop pretending that everything is fine. You must stop defending your pain. You must stop avoiding the truth. The truth is this: your next level of growth cannot happen with the old mindset. It cannot rise from the same behaviors that kept you stuck. You have to make space. You have to bury the old version of yourself and give birth to the next one. Not in words, not in thoughts, but in action, in discipline, in silence, in choice. This death, this internal collapse is sacred. It is not punishment. It is rebirth. But it feels like loss. It feels like confusion. It feels like everything is falling apart. That's the price of evolution. That's the cost of rising. And only those who understand this will grow. Only those who embrace the discomfort will change. So if you feel lost during this week, good. It means you're letting go. If you feel emotional, heavy, or alone, good. It means something inside you is shifting. Do not run. Do not numb it. Sit with it. Feel it fully. That pain you feel is not the end. It is the breaking of the shell that held you small. It is the sound of your old self leaving. The world tells you that death is something to fear, but inner death is the most beautiful kind. It gives you back your power. It strips away the lies. It reminds you of what's real. And most importantly, it humbles you. Because when you let something inside you die, you are no longer the same. You begin to see clearer, speak simpler, live lighter. You don't waste time anymore. You don't chase what you've already lost. You begin to value truth, presence, peace. And this is the gift of death in July's last week, the chance to begin again, but not as who you were, as who you were meant to become, but only if you're brave enough to say goodbye. Goodbye to the old story. Goodbye to the excuses. Goodbye to the person who was too afraid to grow. You don't need more time. You need more truth. You don't need to wait for the right moment. This is the moment. Let it happen. Let it fall apart. Let it die. So something real can finally leave. Death in July's last week does not just arrive quietly. It arrives with tests. It does not ask if you're ready. It does not wait for your approval. It brings pressure. It brings tension. And most importantly, it brings choice. Because this week is not just about endings. It's about how you respond to them. When something inside you starts to fall apart, the question is not why, it's how. How will you respond when life removes your comfort? How will you act when the old version of you is no longer enough? That's the test, not the situation itself, but your reaction. That is what reveals who you really are. Anyone can pretend to be strong when life is easy, but when things shake, when the foundation begins to crack, when the old starts to collapse, that's when your truth is exposed. And this last week of July was built for that exposure. It strips away all the pretending. It removes the excuses and it demands presence. This is why some people feel overwhelmed during this time. It's not because life is punishing them. It's because life is testing them. And tests are not meant to be comfortable. They are meant to challenge your discipline. They are meant to confront your reactions. They are meant to bring out either your power or your pattern. You can't hide in this kind of energy. Death in July's last week doesn't allow it. It will show you where you are weak. It will bring forward every habit you said you were done with. It will reintroduce the emotions you thought were buried, and it will ask you directly, what will you do now? Because that is what matters. The response, not the pain, not the situation, not the external event, but the internal decision. Some people will get angry. Some will run. Some will numb themselves with distractions, but a few will stop, breathe, reflect, and face it. That's the path. That's where growth begins. That's where transformation is earned. You see, we all say we want to grow. We all speak about becoming better, becoming stronger, becoming more disciplined, but most people only say it. When the pressure comes, they retreat. When the moment arrives, they fold. Why? Because they're still living from emotion, not awareness, still reacting instead of responding, still driven by their past instead of their potential. That's why this final week matters, because it reveals that gap, the gap between your words and your actions, between your intentions and your reactions. And until that gap is closed, there is no change, only repetition. So if this week has brought you struggle, good. If you feel tested, good. If life feels heavier, good. Now is the moment to decide. Will you fall back into your old self, or will you rise with discipline? Will you choose anger, or will you choose clarity? Will you break down, or will you break through? There is no one coming to save you. No one is going to pass this test for you. This is personal. This is between you and yourself. You will either take full responsibility or you will stay stuck. This is what death in July's last week teaches. It strips away the option to hide behind circumstances. It shows you that freedom doesn't come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from facing it, owning it, and growing through it. And this is not about perfection. It's about awareness. It's about becoming so present that you notice your triggers, so conscious that you can pause before reacting, so honest that you can admit when you're slipping back into old ways. That's what real strength looks like. Not pretending, not performing, but choosing again and again to walk the higher path. Every time you're tested this week, you have a choice: fall back or rise, react or respond, escape or evolve. And those small moments, those seconds where you make that choice, are where the real transformation happens. Not in what people see, not in what you post, but in what you do when no one is watching. You are not being punished, you are being shaped, but shaping is never soft. It requires pressure, it requires fire, it requires the death of who you were so you can become who you are meant to be. That death is not symbolic, it's necessary. And it's happening now, right here, in this final week of July. So don't waste it. Don't distract yourself. Don't ignore the signs. Face it, take the test, and pass it, not just for today, but for every version of you that has suffered from your old reactions. Choose to respond differently. Choose to grow. Because every test you pass becomes the foundation for a new life, a stronger one, a freer one, a real one. The final week of July is not here to destroy you. It is here to awaken you. And the test is simple. How will you respond to the death of your old self? With resistance or with discipline? That answer will define not just this week, but the rest of your life. Death in July's last week does not always speak in loud voices. It does not shout. It does not explain itself. It whispers. It hides in the background, in moments of silence, in seconds of stillness. And that's why most people miss it, because they don't stop, they don't slow down, they don't listen. They are too busy filling every empty space with noise, distractions, conversations, scrolling, rushing. But this week was not meant to be filled. It was meant to be heard. And hearing requires silence. The most powerful messages come in silence. The truth you've been searching for is not far away. It's already here. But you won't find it in more information. You won't find it by asking others. You find it in stillness. You find it when everything becomes quiet. That's when the truth rises. That's when the secret reveals itself. And the deeper the silence, the clearer the message. This is why death in July's last week is so important, because it demands something people avoid: solitude, real solitude, not loneliness, not isolation, but the kind of space where your inner voice can finally speak. And what it says might not be easy to hear. It might confront you. It might expose the lies you've been telling yourself. It might reveal the parts of you that are no longer honest, no longer strong, no longer real. But it will speak. And if you're brave enough to listen, that's when everything begins to shift. But most people will never get to that point. They are afraid of silence. They avoid being alone with themselves, because in that space, the truth becomes impossible to escape. There are no filters, no distractions, just you, your choices, your past, and your present. That's the space where growth begins. That's where transformation becomes possible. During this week, life is whispering to you. It is trying to show you something. But you have to become still enough to receive it. You have to stop explaining, stop complaining, stop justifying, and listen. Just listen. What is life trying to tell you? What pain have you ignored for too long? What calling have you silenced because you were too afraid to follow it? That is the dark secret hidden in this week. Not a secret that's meant to scare you, but one that has the power to set you free. But only if you hear it. This is not the time to talk about others. This is not the time to analyze the world. This is not the time to blame, to distract, to escape. This is the time to go inward, to observe, to pay attention. Because death in July's last week is internal. It is the death of noise, the death of mental clutter, the death of confusion. And after that death comes clarity. But clarity always requires silence first. Silence reveals everything. It shows you where you are still hiding. It shows you the truth behind your emotions. It shows you your attachments, your fears, your regrets. It shows you who you have become. And if you stay there long enough, if you stop running and just stay, that's when the real message arrives. It might come as a realization. It might come as a sudden shift in your thinking. It might come as a deep knowing, but it will come. And once you hear it, you cannot go back to who you were before. You begin to move differently, speak differently, live differently, not because you read something, not because someone told you what to do, but because you finally connected with your own inner wisdom, the kind of wisdom that cannot be given by anyone else, the kind that only comes when you're quiet enough to receive it. This is what makes this week so powerful. It's not about the external world. It's about your inner world. It's about your ability to sit with yourself and face what's real. And that's where most people fail. They keep looking outward. They keep searching for answers outside themselves. They keep filling their time with distractions. And the voice inside gets quieter and quieter until it's lost, until they forget it was ever there, but not you, not now, not this week. This is your moment to return to silence, to create space, to listen, and to let whatever needs to die, the noise, the doubt, the old beliefs, the emotional chaos, let it fall, let it end, because underneath all of that is the truth, a truth that will guide you, a truth that will free you, a truth that has been waiting for this very moment. Death in July's last week is not just about endings, it's about remembering. Remembering who you are when everything else fades away. Remembering the strength that comes from stillness, remembering that the most important voice you will ever hear is your own, but only in silence does it speak. So don't run from the quiet. Walk into it. Don't fear the stillness. Trust it, because inside that stillness you will find exactly what you've been searching for. And once you hear the message, once you feel the shift, once you know the truth, nothing will ever be the same again. Death in July's last week is not a moment to fear. It is a doorway, but not everyone will walk through it. Some will stand in front of it and freeze. Others will turn back because the unknown looks darker than their pain. But a very few, will take the step. They will walk through. They will leave behind everything that no longer serves them. And those are the ones who change, not because the world outside changed, but because they had the courage to let their old world die. This final week is a threshold, and thresholds are uncomfortable. You are no longer who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. It is a space between, a space where you can't go back, but you're not sure how to go forward. And this is where most people give up, because it feels like nothing makes sense. It feels like you're losing your grip, but what's actually happening is the shedding of false strength. What's dying is your attachment to comfort. And what's being born is clarity, presence, and discipline. To cross the threshold, you need one thing: discipline, not motivation, not excitement, not comfort, discipline. Because discipline is what holds you steady when everything around you starts to shake. Discipline is what keeps you moving when your emotions scream to stop. And in the last week of July, the emotions will rise. The doubts will appear. The inner resistance will try to pull you back into your old life. That's the final test. And you either walk forward with discipline or stay stuck in the life that drains you. People wait for signs, but signs already exist. They've been showing up in your life for years, in your pain, in your repeated patterns, in your frustration, in your dissatisfaction. Those were the signs. But now comes the decision. Will you keep walking the same path? Or will you make the change that you already know you need? This is not about dramatic action. It's about deep commitment. This is about choosing a new way of thinking, a new way of being. every single day, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable, because real growth begins at the edge of what feels safe. This is where the death in July's last week becomes powerful. When you understand then that it's not just about letting go, it's about stepping forward. You can't just stop being who you were. You have to consciously become who you were meant to be. That requires focus. That requires clarity. That requires silence. But most of all, it requires choice. A real choice, not words, not wishes, but daily decisions backed by action. Some people say they want peace, but they feed their chaos. Some say they want growth, but they stay in environments that shrink them. Some say they're ready, but they do nothing. This week will expose that gap, the gap between what you say and what you do. And the truth is simple. If you don't choose to walk forward now, you'll stay trapped, not by circumstances, but by your own unwillingness to act. So you cannot carry the old with you and expect a new life. You cannot cling to the past and move into your future. Something has to break. Something has to end. Something has to die. That's what this week is about. It's not punishment. It's alignment. Life is calling you into integrity, into discipline, into power. But power doesn't feel like power in the beginning. It feels like letting go. It feels like cutting ties. It feels like walking into darkness. That's why most people won't do it. They wait for it to feel easy. They wait for certainty. They wait for guarantees. And by the time they realize nothing changes unless they move, it's too late. They've missed the doorway. They've missed the week. Death in July's last week is not just a metaphor. It is real. It is happening now. Something inside you knows it. You feel it. You feel the shift, the uneasiness, the pressure. That's the threshold. That's the line. And you're standing on it. Now you choose. Will you step forward with clarity or turn back in fear? Will you move with discipline or collapse into old patterns? This is not a small moment. This is not a coincidence. This is a defining point in your life. If you walk forward, there will be pain, but there will also be strength. There will be confusion, but there will also be peace. There will be fear, but beyond that fear, there will be freedom, and not the kind of freedom others give you. The kind that comes from inside, the kind you earn, the kind no one can take from you, but only if you walk through, only if you let this week become the death of your old self, only if you allow this threshold to burn away everything that's holding you back. And if you do, you'll look back one day and realize this week was the turning point. This was the week everything changed because you didn't run, you didn't freeze, you chose, you acted. You walked forward. And that is how transformation begins.